How do you recognise a disease that has no symptoms? How do you combat something that can strike you dead or leave you paralysed without warning? Sounds like a notion from a science fiction story, a future world. Not so. This is one of our oldest, most vicious stealth killers. High blood pressure, hypertension. As an international flight attendant and recreational pilot, Mark Harold lives the high life, literally. But Mark is flying on borrowed time. His blood pressure is through the stratosphere, and he's at risk of crashing and burning.
And one day I went into the doctor's and he said, "Your blood pressure's really high. You should start some medication. And I think you should start it before you leave this room." And so that was really what brought it home to me.
You know, he came into me one day and his blood pressure was like 180 over 130. Now that's massive. I said to Mark, when you leave my office, can you walk out backwards? Because, you know, if you do fall over, I can say you're only on the way in.
Here's to you, darling.
Yes.
How can I lose 10 kg that fast?
Like many of us, Mark parties hard when he has the chance. And 20 years of heavy drinking and hotel hopping is not kind on the heart.
Right, go on.
Heart cannot cope with that kind of output. So he's probably going to get an arrhythmia on his heart. You know, the body's going to start, you know, it's going to neurologically start breaking down. You know, maybe even a heart attack. You know, we're not young. You look at the paper. When you get into your 40s, your mates start dropping by the wayside. End of story. And Mark's going to be one of them.
Hoping to avoid becoming a statistic, Mark is off to the health hazard team for a solution to his seesawing hypertension. Mark has been on medication to control his blood pressure, but he is still not stabilised, as he tells Doc Mayhew.
The thing was, it always tended to vary, so sometimes I'd go in if I'd come home from a trip from flying, and it would be really quite high, sometimes 160 over 110. 2 or 3 days later, it might drop down to 150 over 100. The doctor still considered it too high, and I should continue on the medication.
Right.
What I'd like to do is get off it.
Right.
I don't want to take these tablets forever.
And why be concerned about your blood pressure? Blood pressure is measured by the force your heart exerts against the resistance created by the arteries to keep the blood flowing through your body. When the force becomes excessive, your blood pressure is raised, which means your heart needs to work harder than usual to circulate blood to all of your tissues and organs. If this pressure isn't controlled, your heart enlarges and your arteries become scarred, hardened, and less flexible. And putting it quite simply, too much pressure will rupture your artery walls, giving you a heart attack or stroke, or killing you. With virtually no symptoms, hypertension is a treacherous stealth killer.
If the doctors hadn't actually alerted me to the fact that I needed to do something about it, I would never know. As I said, I've never felt any different.
With so little in the way of obvious symptoms, it's really important to recognise the risk factors for hypertension. These include family history, increased age, excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, poor diet, diabetes, obesity, lack of exercise, and being of Maori descent doubles your chance of developing high blood pressure.
Mark has come to us because he's got hypertension. Now, he hasn't come to us because I've put on a bit of weight and I'm possibly doing the wrong exercise. He's come because he's got this figure called hypertension. And making him take ownership and changing a lot of other things is going to be our task.
With his job on flights, you know, time zones are being crossed all the time, his eating patterns are very erratic. Like you said, his alcohol consumption's high, and I think that's actually, from a nutritional point of view, one of his biggest things he needs to look at.
I think we've got to be a little bit black and white with him. You need, ideally for your health, to have that there. Like his blood pressure should be more like 120 on 80, not 150 on 100. Got to be quite clear so he gets an understanding that that's where he needs to shift it to, that's where he needs to shift his body weight. And then offer him the tools, the means to do that, and you know, the dietary changes and alcohol intake changes are clearly part of that.
Alcohol alone, you know, he's having up to 2 bottles a night of wine, and I really think if he...
I hope it's good wine.
If he alters that one thing alone, that would be enough to, one, lower his weight, obviously, you know, improve his health, then affect his blood pressure. So, you know, for me, that's going to be the first thing that we push.
It's pretty clear what Mark needs to do to get on top of his hypertension. Reduce his alcohol intake, eat well, lose weight, and exercise regularly.
And somebody says, oh, let's go to the gym. And you think, oh, I've got so many other reasons why I would not like to go to the gym, you know. I feel run down, I'm tired, I need 3 days off, I need my rest. You know, come on, let's go and do this. No, you go and do it and I'll catch up with you later. It's much easier to sit around at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, open a bottle of wine, sit in front of the TV and relax, than it is to get up and go and do an aerobics class. I'm just going to totally re-alter or totally deconstruct my life and try and reconstruct it again in a different way.
So Mark has to come down to earth, but with his jet-setting lifestyle, away from home for days at a time, often only touching down long enough to unpack and recharge his suitcase with clean clothes, will he be able to find the time to get on top of his condition when he barely has the time to pay his bills?
Well, welcome to my nightmare. This is what I normally come back to. Great piles of letters, money bills.
And another concern to add to the health hazard team's list. In the brief time off he has from his flight schedules, Mark has a sideline business fixing up houses. Hardly stress-free and designed to lower his blood pressure.
When I have 3 days off after a flight, also I get stuck in and start tearing the wallpaper off and repainting and doing whatever else is required to get the house up to a more saleable condition.
Like so many of us, Mark's busy lifestyle leaves little time for basic health maintenance. Over the next few months, the health hazard team are going to have to work very hard to change his habits before it's too late.
That's all I want you to do. Nice and steady.
If you're walking around the streets with this body that's about ready to burst out of your skin, hypertension's massive in your lifestyle. You know, it's also, you're going to have a constant worry that this could be your last day on earth.